Danny Garcia defeats Ivan Redkach over 12 rounds. Let's talk about it. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. Smash the like button. Sign up for ESPN Plus below using my link. It helps the channel. Now, let's jump into it. Danny Garcia made his ninth appearance, main event at the Barclays Center. He defeated Ivan Redkach via unanimous decision. It was the right decision. He is the rightful winner. I had him winning. Basically pitched a shutout. Being generous, you can give Redkach 1, maybe 2 rounds for trying. It was really virtually a shutout. I think, let's break down the fight. Early in the fight, I thought the first 6 rounds-ish, maybe even a little bit more than that. First 6, 7, 8 rounds, I thought Danny Garcia was looking really sweet. Fundamentals were intact. And like in round 1, he came out with a great body attack, started seizing the body, and it created some openings. He was on and off with, his performance is almost on and off. Like, again, the first stanza of this fight, I thought he looked really sharp. He looked like a problem. And it got to a point maybe in round 8-ish where I don't have all the rounds memorized, but round 8-ish, it looked like he was going to stop Ivan Redkach to the point where Shane Mosley, his pops, I think Shane Mosley might have stayed behind because he's working with Jake Paul and they got to fight next week. So I think they sent, Papa Mosley to go to this fight, so Shane Mosley didn't have to take off time traveling. But I'm pretty sure Shane Mosley is the trainer of Ivan Redkach. And then his dad kind of filled in because that's who got Shane Mosley started. Anyway, that's just my opinion on it. But anyway, Shane Mosley's dad told Ivan Redkach, hey, you got to throw some punches back. You got to do something. If you don't do something, then I'm going to be forced to stopping this fight. So it got close. It got really close to a stoppage. I mean, even when you hear the corner saying, hey, if you don't show me something, I'm going to stop it, then it's bad news. So it was started off as a pretty masterful performance by Danny Garcia. I liked the thing that I like about Danny Garcia is he gets a lot of hate, but he does a lot well, and it's subtle. It might not be as dazzling and flashy as Roy Jones Jr. or Floyd Mayweather, or Pacquiao or something, because he doesn't have the speed and stuff like that, but it's impressive because he does little subtle things. Like one thing, just to give you guys a little journey into my brain and what I'm looking at and seeing, is Danny Garcia does little subtle things, and he did this the first half of the fight. The couple times they were in a clinch, Danny Garcia would, with one arm free, hit Ivan Redkach. Nothing too severe or sinister or meaningful, but just an added punch. Let me just toss this in here. Maybe push him with the punch. Just little stuff like that. Some people, oh, that's dirty, but you can fight with one hand in a clinch, and as long as you haven't been warned or deducted a point or warned that the referee is going to deduct a point, it's a fight. So those little subtle mean streaks help when you're already beating a person and they're already naturally fatiguing, plus they're losing every round like Ivan Redkach was. I think those little things add up, and I think it's more so there. It's not because Danny's accuracy in the first half of the fight was spectacular. So it's not really, some dudes do stuff like that, the dirty stuff, because they're having a hard time hitting Floyd Mayweather clean. So they just get mad and rabbit punch and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about little subtle stuff with one arm free and just an extra punch as you're breaking, stuff like that. Little subtle things like that. And it's not because Danny Garcia was struggling with accuracy or struggling to land punches. I think he was doing that just little subtle, slightly, some people say slightly dirty veteran tricks. Those little things to help what's already being done, to help cook you, to demoralize you and leave you disenchanted and discouraged even more so. And that's what was happening. All these punches, especially the combination punches, Garcia's jab, his hooks were on point in the first half of the fight. It was more than half. I keep saying half, but first stanza of the fight, Danny Garcia looked good. However, it was shortly after he hurt Ivan Redkach where Danny Garcia, he really kind of just put it in cruise control. I think he could have stopped Ivan Redkach. I'm not saying that he tried so hard for the Redkach knockout and then he couldn't get it. But I think he could have got it if he would have tried. But you got to understand, like, I hate the fans booing in the crowd and all this weak stuff, because this is boxing. This is sweet science. This man is on the verge of getting a major fight on a major network, Showtime or Fox, and having couple $1 million payday, probably his biggest payday of his career, to fight Errol Spence or Manny Pacquiao. You don't need to do something senseless trying to please the crowd when you've dominated every round. It is up to Ivan Redkach or whoever your foe is, whoever the ops are in that particular situation. They got to come up with something. You know, it's just like even the movie. Here's an analogy for you guys. It's like the movie Home Alone. The burglars are trying to seize and burglarize the McAllister house. So Kevin McAllister set up traps and set up shop to thwart and deter them from being able to take treasures and family heirlooms and pictures and valuables, you know. And it's the same. You got to set up shop and you got to get it done for you. It's not up to your opponent to give you your only fighting chance, because it got to a point where Ivan Redkach had been beaten up through most of 9, you know, all the rounds he had lost. So really he needed a knockout to win at that point. You know, he needed a knockout to win. So you're going to give him that by making it fun for the crowd and entertaining. You know, people are ridiculous. Like, it's just, these aren't, to me, not real diehard boxing fans like that. So you could say the action towards the end was reduced for sure. But I think Garcia was more so just kind of in cruise control, and he had control of the fight. And even in I'm saying cruise control lightly, because even in cruise control, he was still winning the rounds. His volume of punch declined, and, you know, he almost got reserved to, if this goes the distance, it goes a different distance. If I want to knock him out, if there's an opportunity, then I'll step it up. But other than that, it's going to be what it's going to be. And that's kind of what he said. Post-fight, Danny Garcia, he was congratulated by Ivan Redkach. He congratulated him, and Ivan, you know, interrupted Danny's interview and said, "Oh, you're a good fighter. Good luck to what's next." So it's cool that there's no hard feelings. One thing that was extremely weird is a move of desperation and frustration on behalf of Redkach, is in that first stanza where Danny Garcia was piecing up Redkach. Danny Garcia was in a clinch with Redkach, and he bit Danny Garcia on the shoulder. I don't think he did it so hard to leave a bite impression or anything, but he bit him for some reason. They showed it from a couple angles, the replay, and he sure enough did bite him with a mouthpiece. And then Danny Garcia said in the post-fight interview, the guy said, "Hey, look, Mike Tyson." And that's really weird that a grown man would, you know, be losing a fight and say, "Hey, look, it's me, Mike Tyson," and then bite you. But, you know, strange things happen in boxing. This is the theater of the unknown. Danny Garcia, I thought it was a very solid performance. I want to give it, see, some people are going to be harsh and unrealistic, you know, bump all that. I think it was a solid B. It wasn't an A performance. You know, a lot of people start tweeting me and say, "Oh, this Errol Spence would have did this to Ivan Redkach." Probably so, but you have to understand, boxing is boxing. It doesn't work like that, because, you know, John Molina actually knocked out Ivan Redkach, but there's different variables. Ivan Redkach looked damn near bigger than Danny Garcia. You know, he looked at least equivalent. He didn't look like he didn't belong in there, and his arms look extremely long to me. So, you know, who knows what Ivan Redkach was doing to even make weight. He might have been killing himself to make weight, aka making himself more vulnerable and reducing his punch resistance if he's dehydrated, you know. So that could be a factor you have to implement. But you also have to look at John Molina's style. Ain't Danny Garcia's style. So styles make fights. You can't really compare those two things, because John Molina he got knocked down a couple times and had a war with Ivan Redkach. Danny Garcia pretty much dominated and won every round and was looking sweet through majority of the fight. The only thing that you could critique why I would put the performance at maybe a solid B is because he, you know, given the fact that this is a guy coming up, you know, people are going to expect a spectacular, scintillating fight and knockout. And I think he could have gotten it, but he was a little bit spotty. I wanted to see more of a continued jab, and a steady body attack. When he was throwing to the body, it was dope, and it was effective. But he was a little bit spotty. I don't know if that was a little bit of like underestimating the guy or whatever. Didn't think he'd be this tough, so you thought it would come, and then you got like lullabied into the fight it turned out to be at the end. I'm not sure, but needless to say, it was a very good performance from Danny Garcia. The only thing that would have made it great is it like a knockdown or some knockout, something like that. But I thought he looked solid. I thought he looked very solid. Ivan Redkach, pretty durable, pretty tough. He tried as best he could, and I think most of his throwing punches and more late success was Danny Garcia letting off the gas a bit. Danny hasn't fought since I think it was April of last year when Andy Ruiz fought on his undercard. So Andy Ruiz himself, after that fight, after that same card, fought Anthony Joshua in June, which was a quick turnaround, and then he fought him in December. Danny ain't fought in 9 months, so you got to factor these things in. I think Danny Garcia, if he's knowing he's like, again, you got lunatic boxing fans who are going to say, oh, this Danny, it won't be good enough for Errol, it won't be good enough for Pacquiao. I'm pretty sure Danny and his pops know that these are bigger opponents and bigger fights, and they're going to prepare for that. And it's not going to be necessarily, they're talking about these fights could happen next and soon by the summer. So it's not going to be a long, lengthy layoff. So this is kind of really the ideal fight for Danny Garcia, fight where he dominated. The other thing you have to look at of making it a war when you're on the heels of Pacquiao and Errol Spence, those types of big fights, Keith Thurman part 2, is why risk getting cut, injured, looking bad, getting knocked down, any type of injury or whatever when you're on the heels of that. So I wouldn't want to get injured either. So I don't blame Danny Garcia one bit. You're right up in the conversation. You just got to secure that W. And some of the same people in old media are going to praise Anthony Joshua's performance versus Ruiz in the rematch and like that boxing, but hate on Danny Garcia, which makes no sense because to me, Danny Garcia was looking sweet. He didn't look scared. Again, through different reasons, I think the toughness of Redkach, maybe the 9-month layoff, maybe a little bit of complacency after he was reserved to like, it's going to end how it end, things like that. But I thought Danny Garcia had a good performance all in all. Good performance. Towards the end, it started to trail off a little bit, and where it crescendoed maybe around 8 or 9, it looked like he could get the stoppage. Ultimately, he didn't get a knockdown or stoppage. But the other thing you have to attribute that to, if you know boxing, is Ivan Redkach seemed a bit gun shy, especially early, and Danny was doing great work. So it becomes harder and harder if your opponent is not looking to, come at you recklessly or come out and leave different openings you have to try to create. And I think I seen Danny Garcia creating some of these openings. He was like doing some subtle movement and pivoting and sidestepping and stuff like that. The other aspect for Danny Garcia is something he might want to improve, which could be the case, is on top of the month or the 9-month layoff, he said he came in 25 pounds overweight, so he had to lose weight. So that's not good. And I wish more of the fighters, I know he's been around for a little bit, he's 30 now or whatever, but they got to get that weight down. He said in the pre-fight buildup, he don't drink or smoke. So then that means you just straight eating. He said, I don't do drugs, I don't drink, and I don't smoke. So, you got to curb that appetite sometimes and not be so far out from your competing weight, because that just makes it a fat camp and it makes it more of a chore to lose weight, which definitely could have created stamina issues for Danny Garcia late, So he just has to sort these little things out. I'm looking forward to his next fight. I thought it was a good performance. He needs to keep his weight down. He just competed. And I'm sure he can make these adjustments. He's been in the sport long enough. And if he's about to get a major fight with Keith Thurman, Pacquiao, or Spence or somebody, then he would want to, because he's going to have to bring his A game for all those guys. And I'm sure he's aware of that. So not really much to say for Ivan Redkach. He tried, but it wasn't good enough. Danny was looking crispy with the hooks, came close to stopping him, but after that, he just tapered off and, put it in cruise control a bit and just did what he had to do to get through the rest of the fight. I might do a video about Swift Jarrett Hurd. Congrats on his victory. His game plan was a bit weird on the co-feature to me, and I'll explain that in a later video. But someone with his athleticism, his power, and his height, I understand he's coming off a loss, new training situation, but he seemed like he didn't have an identity to me. So I'll go into that in detail if I make another video or on my next live stream. Let me know what you guys think. Danny Garcia, he advances. He's moving closer to 40 fights, I think. He might have 40 now. But congrats to DSG and The Purge. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.